with snow now.
Yeah, we got flat out squalls now, baby. This is.
Joe West hasn't moved.
The fans are loving it.
Yeah. No, try to hit it. Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show and we're in a snow globe and they just shook it up.
This is quite a sight. I mean, here we are in late April, and it is really starting to snow now.
It is April 22nd.
Well, that's strange.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently testing its unified field engine over the Tunguska Forest in northern Russia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which proposed that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure, thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. My wingman for the show, once again, is Jonathan from Jersey. How's it going, man?
You like that?
Yeah, that's classic. I forgot what that's from. That's from the disco era.
That's from Art Bell from Coast to Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're going to steal Art Bell's thing? Oh, yeah, that'll go over like a freaking ton of bricks. Yes. Thump, 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 thump. Okay, let me make sure this thing is... quick apology, because Jonathan called me out on this last week, and I didn't even realize I was doing it, and that is one of the roundtable leaders, John Laban. I was calling Simon Laban. And I think I did it more than once. And I'm sorry for those of you who are old enough to remember, and I think everybody in this panel here is old enough to remember, Simon Laban was the lead singer of the famous 80s band Duran Duran, along with Nick Rhodes and a few other, big hair guys. And so he is kind of burned into my head. So please, John, do not take offense if I accidentally call you Simon on air, which I know I have. So there you have it. So thank you, Jonathan, by the way, for reminding me. Otherwise, I would have kept doing it.
That's one of the duties as a wingman.
Yeah, well, you did a great job there. Because you said he was like, Simon? Who's Simon? I was going, oh, no. Did I actually do that? Anyway, our special guest for tonight is a guy we just had a couple weeks ago. His name is Jeffrey Grupp, and he is now what I consider to be the hardest working man in the flat earth world. Because he is cranking his head. I mean, some people are doing tests, and then this guy with his very, very big brain is starting to do a lot more tests. And I've seen some of his work, and we're going to talk about it tonight. A lot of visual stuff, especially that we're really talking about optics and how your eyes trick you. And what you see is not really what you think you see. As Jeffrey Grupp, welcome back, Jeffrey.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no, glad to have you. I have been watching your stuff since the last show, and it has not been that long since we had you on. And you're putting out some amazing stuff. How many videos have you done on the flat Earth topic so far?
Well, I've done a whole bunch, but I've taken most of them down. I've got a new channel. My old channel was simulation theory, but I want that to just be simulation theory only. That's something I'm really heavily involved in researching and just want to keep that channel as it was. So I started a new channel. It's called Zeticism.com. You can just go to my website. I've got a new website too. I actually bought the URL Zeticism.com.
Oh, cool.
Couldn't believe it was available. I actually bought it after I was on your show. That shows you how new all this stuff is, and nobody's been looking into it much.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of hard to spell. So rather than spell it out, I have a second. You can get to the same site if you just go to www.flathead.science. So that'll get you to the same spot rather than try to spell out Zeticism.com. But so that's the best place just to get you to the videos. But all of them are going to just be only there.
Okay.
And I've got I did the one on the Strait of Dover between France and England, and that was, I thought, a really cool one.
Can you describe that one a little bit?
Yeah, that's just, if you're over there in France looking at England across the Strait of Dover, it's 20 some miles and there's no curvature. And you can easily map what the other side by looking at those big white cliffs. You can find little pieces in the cliffs and so forth from the beach on the France side, and you realize that there's no curvature. Now, the reason I took that one down is because it relates to a bunch of things in the new video I've done on the Chicago skyline, which we'll probably talk about in a little while.
Yeah.
And some of that research affected the Strait of Dover work, so I decided I'd redo that one after I got the Chicago skyline one all done.
Okay.
But yeah, it basically just shows, over 20, I think it's 23, I can't remember, did it like 3 weeks ago or so, 23 miles or something, no curvature, which is not what we should expect. There's this whole curved water thing, which, my experience is, unfortunately, I'm not gonna talk about, fights with the round earthers and the flat earthers and so forth. My goal is just stay completely out of that and just do productive research, and rather than get into the name calling and everything. But
of course,
it does seem like that, that's a significant issue, almost hard. That's one of the biggest pieces of evidence for the flat earth, that the round earth position requires that you violate the flow characteristics of a liquid.
Yeah.
For water all over the planet, you've got to have, Lake Michigan's got to have big humps of water, and oceans and all over the place. And to my knowledge, if you hump up, if I have a flat, if I've got my desk right here, I try to stack up bits of water, I think that I probably won't be able to do it because the water will flow from side to side. But you've got to, for the round earth position, I believe that the only way they can describe how water can have a curved surface, you have to imagine if you're, pretend you are a little molecule of water in the middle of Lake Michigan.
Okay.
And and you're humped up way, say 50 miles up from the shorelines or something. And, how can that possibly be the case? The only way I think you can describe it is if you take gravitation to be holding everything in place. If you got an arced or curved gravitational pull on the round earth philosophy to the center of the earth, then perhaps you can try to get away with a theoretical description of how a surface of water can be curved because of that arced gravitational pull. But the problem is, if you can anybody can go anywhere in your kitchen or your yard or whatever and try to do the same thing, get water to hump up in any way that, it does, just because, the Lake Michigan is 80 miles across, or you could even have a much smaller, you could have, the Strait of Dover 20 miles across. You can do the same, if you have water humped up there, then you should be able to hump up water across, 2 inches across a metal plate in your work office or something.
Sure.
And you won't be able to do it in any of the cases. So there's a significant problem right there. I've got all these round earth people screaming at me saying there's basically just name calling. Unfortunately.
I was about to say, if you don't mind me interrupting, do you actually have round earthers that are throwing that out there, saying there's humps in the water at this point? Is that actually a legitimate stance on their side?
I think I don't know. I think they're kind of just ignoring it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they are, and I haven't run into it, but
okay.
I think it's one of there's many pieces of information that the round earthers are sort of just ignoring.
Yeah, but you're already running into the name calling.
That's pretty much. I've been trying to address a lot of the round earthers and just talk. I'll say something to them, and then they come back with every, just name calling, and I just ignore it and just keep talking to them. Just try to be nice.
Sure.
Hey, when I was in academia, I brushed shoulders every single day with people that held the exact and were publishing on the exact opposite views that I was publishing on. It was hardcore stuff. It was intense. People were at each other, but there was no name calling. We just knew that it was part of the game. It was like a football game. After the football game, you don't get in a huge fight with you. Well, sometimes I guess.
Sometimes you do, yeah.
But I mean, so I just have tried to ignore the all that, and but it doesn't seem to be working.
I got you.
I have a couple more things to say about that when we talk about some of the videos later.
Okay. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to name calling, because as Jonathan and I have talked about, it is one of the first. Again, it's not a rebuttal, but it's that first impulse, that first knee-jerk reaction, which allows people to get the motivation to make videos, hate videos, where they say flat earthers are idiots. And I know these people aren't, hicks or anything. They're not like they've got 3 teeth in their whole head and one of them's called Old Chomper. They're just emotionally wrapped up in the whole concept.
Well, I think a lot of them actually really believe that the flat earthers are nuts. I mean, I used to be way back when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I got really into the whole science thing, and science is God, and it's just so amazing, and it's cool to be in, atheism and evolution is awesome, and it's so amazing that we can overcome the all the silly primitives and the ridiculous philosophy. I mean, that's catchy when you're in a college university and you're an impressionable 20-year-old that grew up around parents that probably didn't know anything and high school teachers that didn't know anything, and then you get in the university and you're around all these big shots that are talking in terms you've never heard before and have no reverence for religion, which probably a lot of young people are just wrathful about anyways, because they've had it shoved down their throat the wrong way and so forth, whatever the religion is we're talking about. The university is a perfect thing to run to. And I mean, and to think that all the university people can be wrong is just beyond what a lot of people can believe. Unfortunately, though, that's the nature of all the university people are wrong. That's the nature of science. You don't have the proper view. The views evolve, the theories evolve through time. So that means that the current theories will be replaced by theories in the future. Yeah. So that means all the existing theories need to be modified, i.e. the existing theories are not correct. Yeah. That's just that's called the Popperian view.
Do you find... Oh, I'm sorry. I just had one quick question. Have you gotten any flack from people that believe in a hollow or concave Earth? And if not, do you find that they're more on board with what you're saying because it's not the round Earth?
Well, the hollow Earth, no, I haven't got any flack from no. Okay. But the hollow Earth, I think that view is even the academics have sort of on their round Earth philosophy, quote unquote, discovered that, because when they do their earthquake test, I'm going to be doing a video in the future about the earthquake tests they do when you send earthquake waves through the center of the round Earth, and then you find out that there's these big areas that aren't solid. So these are the air or liquid in it or something. So there's roughly a hollow Earth philosophy that comes out of the round Earth philosophy, but and then they've got all these different cores of the Earth and so forth, and it's actually kind of one of the only interesting things about the round Earth philosophy, in my opinion. But no, I haven't. Why have you?
No, not to complicate anything. It's just that you always think there's only these two parties, right? It's either flat Earth or round Earth. It's only one way or the other. When we're talking about possibilities here and simulations and anything else. So I don't want to discount anybody.
Mirror world underneath. That's. I mean, I don't know if there's anything to that, but when I'm going to do some investigating into that idea that there's a sort of parallel world on the other side of the disk.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways you can go with this. I mean, the view I hold is that, just like I said last time I was on, all these views are so new that I don't have any kind of dogmatic fundamentalist position on anything.
Yeah.
I'm just exploring. I'm not the guy out there that's got the answers and I have the truth and everybody else is wrong in my opinion. Forget all that. I'm just wandering around. I mean, everything's changed in my mind since the last time I was on this show. I think last time I was on this show, I was talking about the Chicago Mirage. Viewed from Grand Mere, Michigan. Now all my views have completely changed on that thing. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and I'm sort of the same way. I mean, I know people are going to come back at me and say, well, you said it was this and you said it was this. I was like, no, I've got conviction that it's this. But if it changes again, and you've heard me say it before, if somebody comes back and finds out that, oh yeah, by the way, it's got this, it's tabletop flat, or it's this, or maybe there's a little concave or convex, tweak to it, I'd be like, fine.
I'm talking about the expanding Earth idea.
Yeah.
I think you were on. I think that was on the Daniel Ott show when you were on that, Mark. And
Yeah.
that actually I hadn't thought of that because the expanding. I did a lot of work on the expanding Earth back in my antimatter radio days. I held that view because I thought it was the right view because so many parts of the Earth are rising up. I think it's 10-1. I don't know what it is, 10-1 or something of the parts that are decreasing. There's so many parts rising up. I thought that the Earth was expanding in a non-uniform way, and that that gives a really good explanation alternative to plate tectonics. There's so many things that we haven't even had time to even. I mean, I just thought about that for the first time yesterday when I heard you talking about it on that show.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all so new. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are out there saying they've got the truth. I don't think anybody really knows that they have the truth on this. I mean, maybe in 15 years. This is the mother of all.
Oh yeah.
Of all, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theory, whatever. I mean, really, it's a pretty empirical. I mean, I just go about it with extreme empirical research. What I could say is zetetic research.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I've got any patience for. I try to eradicate all theories if possible. And so, I mean, that's anyway.
Yeah. I totally hear you there. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to take 15 years. I really don't at the pace this thing is going, because you got to remember the stuff that I put out was only the second week of February.
Yeah.
This year, and it's just amazing the surge of information that's coming out, and the amount of people that are doing their own research, including the debunkers, which again is great. Yep. The debunkers don't quite get it yet. Which is, I told Jonathan this. I said, look, you can keep coming at this all you want, but really all you're doing is firing wooden arrows into a bonfire. That's all you're doing.
Well, now they have to move up the timeline on Project Bluebeam. I heard. I've seen that in forums because of you, Mark.
What? Are they moving that up?
They're moving it up now to 2020.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. Yeah, we'll see.
Remember Codex Alimentarius?
The what?
Yes.
Remember Codex Alimentarius? I remember there was so many things that I remember back when I was doing my conspiracy work from 2005 to 2011, the antimatter radio days. There was so many things that people talked about, and they had deadlines and dates on them. Yeah. I remember one of the big ones was Codex Alimentarius, where all the supplements were going to be banned and so forth. And we have to learn that a lot of these predictions that people. I mean, I know you guys are just messing around,
right.
A lot of these predictions and stuff people have made in the past. That predictions don't work. If we want to try to understand reality, we got to use our senses. Yeah, it's best not to. I don't know.
Don't put dates on. Yeah, that's it's safer. Well, I mean, everybody got burned by the whole 2012 thing. Everybody. Well, at least I did. I completely bought into it.
Really?
I was a huge Planet X guy. Big Planet X guy.
Oh yeah, Planet X, right? I like that.
Did a lot of research. Yeah, I thought it was a really really cool thing. And when I was one of those guys that actually did a pay-per-view for Melancholia when it was on television first, exclusive.
Oh yeah, good movie.
And yeah, I was going, wow, is this really this is really really cool. Mm-hmm. And now it's 2015, of course, and and between then and now, everyone was going, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming." I was going, "No, it's not even breathing hard. It's not going to happen." But
I was on the 2012 is an ice age. I kind of still am on that actually. I did.
Are you?
Yeah, I did actually an antimatter radio show, the first one in like 4 years or whatever, year and a half ago.
Yeah.
About that, and if you've studied the whole sunspots thing, where sunspots decrease and the world gets colder, and
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I remember when we were, I was vacationing, what was this, 2012, I think it was, in August. Oh, I remember I went to a Detroit Tigers baseball game. I think it was 2012.
Yeah.
And might have my dates wrong. In April, and it was snowing. I remember my daughter and I were just freezing. And then I remember it was cool all summer. And then we went to the lake in Muskegon vacation in August. And it got down to 39 degrees in Muskegon, Michigan, on Lake Michigan. I was like, then I really started getting my old 2012. There's that one book, I can't remember. Oh, man, there's this one guy that called it. He said 2012 is actually about an ice age and sunspots. And he wrote the book in like 2001 or something. It's full of math, and it's really an amazing book for the parts I've read.
Wow.
And then we had that unbelievably cold winter not this past winter, but the one before.
Yeah.
And then I did the antimatter radio show and really got into that theory. And then sort of last winter was a little warmer, but But now I'm starting to wonder again. I think that Cliff High guy, the half past human guy.
Yeah.
Now I don't buy into his stuff too much. I remember he had that Summer from Hell that he always talked about for years and years. He's like, it's going to be the worst summer of recession, depression. And then it was like a great summer. Nothing ever happened. Yeah. And then when people called him out on it, he said, oh no, it was just the weather was bad. That's all I meant. But he actually has been pretty on with these, doing these computer predictions about reading the text of the World Wide Web and trying to find out subconsciously what people are really thinking by looking at the text of computer codes and emails and so forth. And he called the one in not this last winter, but the winter before. But he says this one's going to be worse. So and it has been a cool summer. So anyway, it's kind of curious.
Yeah. I've just gotten so not to use a play on words here, so jaded over the years. See what I did there? A little jade helm thing. I've been so jaded over the years because like the horror movie Cat in the Closet thing, the traditional open up the door, just a little bit, thinking the killer's in the closet and the cat jumps out, scares everybody in the audience. But once you've seen about 5 or 6 cats come out, you really get tired of it. So to the point where it's like the killer's never going to be in there. It's just going to be another freaking cat. And I'm never going to see it. And plus I'm a prepper on top of that. So I was stocked up for 2012. Heck, I was stocked up for Y2K.
Yeah, I was stocked up in 07 because I thought the economy was going to go to nothing.
Yeah, that's when I started stocking. Got in a farmhouse.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, well, again, the dates. We'll see. I'm still a little bit hopeful for, or not hopeful, depending on how twisted you think I am, about the whole thing coming in the fall, because there's so many overlapping things that people are talking about. Initially, the one that comes to the forefront, of course, is Jade Helm. But and people ask me about that all the time, and I say, look, Jade Helm is just a part of something else. You can't do Jade Helm on its own. It's not a standalone. It's got to be used in combination with some, you've got to have like 2 or 3 good body blows before you even think about bringing Jade Helm online. Because there's just not enough troops for something like that.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. There's been before where those big overlaps of many things and huge military operations and looks like we're going to go to war with this country or that. I mean, I don't know. It could, I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, I hear it. But for me, I'm still staying on point and on focus with this thing. I watching the flat Earth / enclosed world thing grow is just amazing.
Yeah.
To see, because the debunkers are it's not that they're just losing, they're being sucked into the fold. Like I don't even know how to explain it. They start out, you've heard me talk about before, where they start out so gung-ho. It's like, I can absolutely stomp this out. And then one by one they fall. And there's a few out there, that are holding on to it. But every day I see new people making new videos. And you can tell the passionate ones, the ones that have never really made a video before. And all of a sudden they make like 5 videos saying the flat Earth is an awful, it's terrible. People are idiots. I can't believe everyone's buying into this. And then all of a sudden, one of us, they're on board. So it's.
Mark, let me ask you now, if you don't mind,
sort
of impromptu. So now there's a number of different views to hold on this with respect to this, what's going on in the sky, what the sky is.
Yeah.
Now you hold the idea that it's basically some sort of cinematic holographic screen?
Yeah, basically a giant planetarium Truman Show, where as far as the stars and the planets go, yes. I believe that where the stars and the planets. Now, a traditional planetarium, no, probably not. I mean, we're talking about advanced technology, or divine technology, depending on how you want to look at it. It's some pretty high end stuff. When it comes to the sun and the moon, though, I treat that as 3-dimensional objects that are inside the planetarium. Now, some, again, I use Crow 777 for the moon stuff, and the sun stuff. I can go with several different people's models that are out there. But if it turns out that the sun and the moon are above this system, that are above the enclosure or whatever you want to call it, the firmament, whatever you name, I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep. It's like, hey, fine, I was a couple thousand miles off. Who cares?
Well, it's not something that we're all going to say, I know. I mean, and you don't, because everybody's trying to kind of figure it out. I kind of, at the moment, I've been thinking about this a lot. At the moment, I'm sort of still in what I've kind of labeled in my mind the Platonistic or the Platonic view of the sky, where you're looking into the sky, you're looking towards or into heaven.
Yeah.
And the spherical objects that or roundish, spherical, whatever they are up there.
Yeah.
Those are gods and spirits and so forth. Just the planet. Plato held that really it was Timaeus.
Yeah.
More than Plato. There's that book Timaeus that Plato wrote, which is basically Socrates and Timaeus talking back and forth. And this philosopher, which is really never mentioned hardly ever in Western philosophy, lays out some of the best stuff in the whole history of Western philosophy through this book. And he talks in terms of, there's a spherical entity that we exist in with a sort of disk. There's sort of some debate on, is it a disk-like world inside the spherical heavenly shell?
Yeah.
So like Hackforth, the philosopher who wrote that book, Cambridge University Press book. He's one of the ones that says, no, it's a flat entity.
Yeah.
And then, the inferior gods are the planets, and then you go further towards heaven, then the stars, those are the more superior gods, and then you get to the heavenly realm. So it's basically a more sophisticated version of, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe not more sophisticated, but I probably shouldn't say that. It's sort of
no. I mean, it's a
Christian view in different words.
Yeah, it's a divine version, and again, I have no problem with that model. I mean, it's.
I didn't mean more sophisticated than yours. I meant more. I was saying more sophisticated than Christianity, but then I was biting my tongue there, thinking maybe they're both sophisticated.
Yeah, I mean, could they be? Yeah, could the lights in the sky be sentient beings? Oh yeah, sure.
Well, sort of like minds or something. This is something I've been thinking about this for several years, but now I'm really thinking about it after bumping into the flat Earth philosophy in February, like everybody else did.
yeah. I mean, we've seen tons of movies, not necessarily science fiction, but mythological movies, which talk about when you die, you become another star in the celestial canopy.
Well, that's primitives everywhere holding that view.
Oh yeah,
all over the place.
Or heck, I'll even take before the break. I'll mention this one for anyone that has forgotten the classic Jimmy Stewart movie, "It's a Wonderful Life," where the beginning are the stars talking to each other. Which if you remember that part where the angels and the higher angels are talking to each other, and the stars are kind of like it's 30s. Special effects, so the stars are just kind of getting brighter when they're talking,
mm-hmm.
just kind of flashing to each other, but they're talking in English. And the point is that they're actually, not only are they up there watching us, but they're actually part of the canopy itself. So anyway,
I don't know how much time we have till break. Just cut me off when you're ready. But I was looking at this International Space Station picture earlier today, and there was one of the few that has stars in it.
Yeah.
They had this huge ball-like star. I mean, it was this giant thing. I'm thinking, what in the world is that? There's nothing that big that we're viewing. I think I'm going to put it in this new video that I'm making.
I want to talk about that after the break then. And we will be right back with more Jeffrey Grupp. Stay there. Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, with Jonathan and Jeffrey Grupp. Where we left off was Jeffrey was talking about an ISS image that he saw on YouTube recently. It was was it a movie NASA was putting out?
No, this was I'm finishing up this video. I think I'm gonna put it up while we're on the air here.
Okay.
And so all your listeners can see it. During showtime or whatever. It's called Zset. Well, I can talk about the title in a minute, but I just have to look up the title. It's so long I forgot. But no, I was looking at looking for pictures of the International Space Station. I wanted to find some pictures at night, and I was trying to find something that had stars.
Got it. Taken from the ISS, kind of an exterior shot looking down on Earth.
Yeah, either purportedly taken from the ISS or of the ISS up there. Anything that looked normal or something.
Okay.
And then I finally found a couple that had stars, and every single picture was just completely bizarre. The one I've got it right here in this video I'm making. You're looking at the supposed curve of the Earth, and then you see these stars, and they're way too big. It doesn't make any sense. If you're looking at the star from the ISS, it's basically the same view is you're looking at it from Earth, because the star supposedly in the round Earth Big Bang philosophy is going to be many, many light years away, and so you're going to have it's going to have the same diameter, if a diameter really at all can be deciphered.
Yeah.
And this thing has a huge diameter. I'm thinking, this is just completely ridiculous. I don't. What's the deal?
You just gave you guys just gave me a good thought, by the way. What if when you hear of black budgets, you always think of like military industrial complex type of stuff?
Yeah.
What if the black budgets were allocated towards set building, and Area 51 was really a big hangar like for filming movies and crap, and all those people flying in there were actually artists and stuff, not really scientists?
Good point, because they do fly in a lot of people.
Right, and where could you warehouse all those sets and things that you build? Because if you put them in Hollywood, some people say, "Oh wow, what is this for?"
Good point. Good point. Yeah, you're right. They fly in those white planes from Vegas on a, every day, and not to knock Area 51, because they do I've seen the U-2 spy plane and the SR-71, and nobody's seen the Aurora plane, which supposedly superseded the SR-71. But I know they do some stuff out there. But yeah, movie making, why not? They've got the room for it.
Right, you got big hangars, do it all green screen, and I'm sorry.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. Again, which and I'll lead into this later, but it still leads me to believe that with the amount of money, basically an unlimited budget, if you wanted to, you'd think they'd come up with better special effects than what Jeffrey's talking about. Because like what you were just talking about, the big stars, the oversized images that should not be there. It's almost like, and I hate to say this because people are going to read into it too much, it's almost like they want to get caught.
That's what we were saying in my antimatter radio. That was the whole thing that got us so many people mad at antimatter radio back in 2010.
Yeah,
is we said that take the 9/11 conspiracy theory. We said that it seems just pretty obvious that they, whoever you think the Illuminati is, wanted to create the conspiracy theory because they put the footage out there.
Yeah.
They put the Pentagon footage and Building 7 and the towers and the whole crazy Rumsfeld over there saying, oh, it blew up. The plane was shot down. Blew up. Oops.
Yeah.
He does it like 5 times or whatever.
Yeah.
They put all that on TV just because they're just laughing at everybody. It's just let's tell everybody who we really are. Obviously, only about 20 or 10% or believe it, and we have. It's kind of like a black magic thing. We have to tell you who we are so you can accept us. It's like part of the black magic ritual.
I keep hearing that more and more. That seems to be part of the rules, that you have to tell them. It may be veiled, it may even be thinly veiled, but it's part of the ritual that you have to.
Do you know who floated that rule first?
No,
I floated it back in 2003 before GLP had the big massacre and changed hands.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Really?
I'm going to dig up some notes and show you what I wrote back then. I used to place a lot of ideas, and the guy who ran with it was that guy that's always on Rents. I can't think of his name, the Reverend.
Well, while he's looking that up, not to digress too much, but the 9/11 thing was so. Every time I look at that now, even though for me now it's a secondary conspiracy, because if enclosed world, there's nothing bigger than enclosed world. There's nothing bigger than the flat Earth. But when it comes to the 9/11 stuff, every time I look at it, there seems to be another layer to it. And I keep, like what you were saying, Jeffrey, it's like they released it. Yeah, they showed people, but they were showing like only the first layers of the onion. And then people kept peeling at, peeling off wallpaper, and they're finding more wallpaper. And they're going, and people like the first time I ever heard the no plane scenario. I thought that was completely.
Yeah, I was a no planer.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. And then I'm staring at it going, holy smokes, because I knew enough about ballistics that I should have caught it, because I had done enough shooting over the years that I was going, yeah, the no plane thing works for me now. And then the Dr. Judy Wood energy weapon stuff.
Yeah.
Recently, I'm staring at that. I'm going, there was a section of footage there that she had on where she was showing, a couple of those steel columns on the right hand side of the screen, how they kind of just faded away, just kind of drifted, even though they weren't hit by anything. They just kind of vaporized into nothingness on their own, and you could hear the crowd gasping, that like they were watching a magic trick from the inside. And I'm going, man, there's so many layers. I know I'm harsh on the authority, and I say, some of your methods are so sloppy, but the more I dig into it, it's like, no, it's not sloppy. There's just tons and tons and tons of logistics to work out.
The world is a black I used to call it a dark ecstasy world, but that was long ago. But there's some sort of black magic ritual theater stage that we're just the human civilization on this planet is just part of that. And it's clear that, you know, rituals like World War II or 9/11 or whatever, there's many different layers of black magic in it that we try to guess about it, you know, what's going on with that in our conspiracy work, but you know, it's clear something like 9/11, there was many different levels of some sort of ritual going on. And, you know, it's really hard to figure out. I mean, they want to tell us just the surface of it and almost not even deceiving us really in some ways, just announcing who the controllers are, what their satanic enterprise is.
Yeah. It's like throwing down the gauntlet without, you know, and saying, here, by the way, here's what's being done, you know, try to see if you can figure it out. And, you know, even though they have the utmost confidence that nobody's going to be able to decipher it. And really up until now, I mean, we pulled back layers of different onions, but what do we really know? You know, does anybody, you know...
Yeah, somebody tell me who and what the Illuminati is. And all you get is conspiracy theorists out there fighting, demanding, it's the Zionists, it's the Nephilim. I mean, nobody really knows.
Exactly. When everyone's got to realize that at the highest level, if you stay true to it, and Jonathan and I have talked about before, which is, look, at the highest levels of power, those people remain hidden. It is the first rule of power. The long version of the first rule of power is never put yourself in a position to be overthrown, which in the short version of that is you stay hidden. Nobody gets to know who
Illuminati means power behind the throne.
Exactly. You don't get to be popular and the power, you know, the puppet master at the same time, because you can't give the population a target. The population is still a very, very dangerous thing to you know, the Illuminati or the Bilderbergs or whatever group you want, the Masons. But only if they know what target to go after. If there's no target, you know, that's it. You know, they can do whatever they want. So it's got to be bittersweet for them, because they pull the strings on a lot of these things, but they can't take credit for it publicly. You know, they can't put themselves in the cover.
I don't know. I've had some brush. I did a lot of work on this back in the day in antimatter radio.
Yeah.
I had some back when I was an atheist I was a very, very hardcore atheist from 1994 to about 2004.
Yeah.
And that led me into all kinds somehow or another, it led me into some like demon possession sort of instances or something. I spent years and years trying to figure out exactly what happened. It was mainly in 1999.
Yeah.
And I labeled it dark ecstasy. And I know Freeman's wants me to come on his show here in a couple of weeks and talk about all this and stuff. And I'm trying to like sort my thoughts out and how they've evolved on this through the years. But
neat.
There's a certain, let me just try to say it as quick as possible, because I know we got to talk about flat Earth here.
Sure.
There's a certain kind of consciousness that people have, which is somehow either possessed or associated with hypnagogic realms that involve evil spirits of some sort. And people can be running into this, and your children can be absorbed into this, young children that are 2-3 years old, or adults or whatever, and you don't even really know that you are, or you don't put it together, and it leads a certain set of personality traits come out of it, really strange ones that are very predictable. And if you get into it intense enough, one of them is that you, for some reason, have this passion and love for deception. You love to display a false self. Like you go around in society with this mask on, being this upright citizen, but really behind it, you're this really sort of serial killer mentality, demon possessed sort of evil spirit possessed sort of person. It's kind of hard to explain this in 2 minutes, but
that's okay.
I don't know. But anyway, I guess to sum up what I'm trying to say, probably shouldn't even brought this up.
That's okay.
There's all that stuff is much. I know a lot of people think, it's just all a bunch of craziness and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Whatever. But there is all you need to do is just go take a psychedelic drug, or let's say a psychedelic plant, like take a lot of peyote, even do a large amount of marijuana even or something, and your mind will bump into a hypnagogic realm. And a lot of people call this the bad trip or something. Well, the hypnagogic realm doesn't have to necessarily be filled with terror. There's what's called sleep paralysis. People can run into it through that. We wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get to sleep, and you sort of feel paralyzed, and you feel there's these really dark entities, unbelievable terror. This fills your mind. And So, but anyway, I mean, you don't have to go too far to bump into these very, very dark realms. I just kind of label them satanic realms. Not everything in the hypnagogic realm. The hypnagogic realm is sort of this realm between waking and sleep, and that's easy to generate through psychedelic plants or certain kinds of meditation and so forth.
Yeah.
And you can see very loud and clear that a lot of this stuff is very real. And notice the way your mind changes in some of these states and the different interests and obsessions that you have in the darker parts of them. And it's sort of strange. It really, if you sit back and make notes on what your consciousness is feeling and doing, in a lot of ways, in the darker stages of it, it turns into sort of a very sadomasochistic or even serial killer type of consciousness, which has certain predictable results. Like one is this art of deception. Going back, one more thing, going back to this no planar thing. I remember a lot of people back in the day were saying, "Oh, who cares if there's planes or not? It doesn't really matter." And I made this antimatter broadcast back in 2010.
Yeah.
Which said, no way, this is the most important thing ever. And here's why, because I played all these news broadcasts of all these newscasters. As soon as that second plane hit, all on cue, they're like, oh, there's a plane. There was a plane. There's a plane. There's a plane. Yeah. When there's no plane, you'll watch the NBC footage, there's no second plane there. The building just all of a sudden exploded.
Yeah.
And the point is that kind of showed us a window into how programmed and how choreographed the mass media is. And it has a number, if you understand it's that choreographed.
Yeah.
And those people are being that spoon-fed in these ritual massacres and so forth that are playing out in this theatrical black magic world we live in.
Yeah.
It gives you a better window into exactly what's going on. And everybody's, even conspiracy theorists, I think, are just getting fooled left and right by mass media. And I mean, we think, they think they're so awake and so forth. I don't know. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Can I add one thing to that?
Just as much as everybody else.
Yeah. What do you got, Jonathan?
I just want to confirm what he's saying. And you're right. Once you experience those things, you can almost roadmap it. I mean, you can almost direct your mind to go back to those places because you know how to travel there. It's kind of like going down a dark road and you know what's there.
But they're not all dark.
Well, no, not just a dark road, but I'm saying it's kind of like when you've been down a road you already know and you know what to expect, whether it's bumpy, hilly, whatever. And you start to understand that this is a real place. And I think one of the books I read over the years, going through a similar experience like you, was Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body, and he talks about going into different locales. And you'd have all these different types of entities at these locales, and some places you want to go and some places you want to avoid. And like you said, there were so many levels to it, but they were as real as this place once you were in that altered state. You can
go talk to entities. Go take a bunch of psilocybin mushrooms. Go get sleep deprived and take a ton of vitamin C and eat extra large amount of psilocybin mushrooms. And you will be talking to all the things that catalyze the psychedelic experience, and you'll have a bad trip or something close, and you will be talking to aliens and entities and so forth as if they're just as real as us talking now.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll say one thing, if I may.
Sure.
I was in an altered state once when I had that Kundalini awakening. What I noticed, what I was shown, is there were more beings or people here than we even see. It was something like 4 or 5 times the current population of the Earth. And the coolest thing was, people would walk just like right past each other in perfect synchronicity without bumping into each other. It was just like one after the next after the next.
Yeah, like Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. But it was so real.
Have you guys seen Eyes Wide Shut by Kubrick?
Yeah,
why? Yeah.
Well, actually, scratch that I even said that. Let me gather my thoughts. Maybe I can bring that up later. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I got a big thought there, and I want to make sure I think it through. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Well, do you want me to segue into the Chicago thing or not? Do you want?
Yeah, let's talk about the Boat on the Horizon video first, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, hit me with it. What do you got?
Okay. So, last time I was on, I think we talked about how I wish there was more footage of boats going over the horizon because they're supposedly lower. And there's that that one weird fake video, University of California or something that well, I mean, I don't know if it's
the ones with the 3-masted ship, the pirate ship.
Yeah, it's all chopped up, and it does not look too real. And everybody, all the rounders say, "Oh, you're completely nuts if you don't believe it's real." Like we're just supposed to believe everything that we're told. And so, I was talking to a lot of rounders, and who were trying to fight with me on YouTube. But I'm not going to fight. I don't have anything against you. I just was asking them, does anybody know of some footage of Ship Over the Horizon? And I found out one of these rounders made one. And he made this fantastic video. It's an hour and 25 minutes or something of just a sailboat in Tampa Bay Harbor, or I think it's around Tampa Bay. Yeah. Goes over the horizon. I mean, it goes into the horizon, I should say.
That's the Red's Rhetoric one?
Yeah, Red's Rhetoric
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yep.
This fellow, he did some fantastic video footage.
Yeah.
So I took the video and I did an analysis of it, and it just really blew my mind what I saw. I remember when I found the video, he had a chopped up version of it, and I put in a comment on his YouTube channel. I said, "Hey, do you know, this is where can I see the full footage, or do you have some full uncut or something?" And then he told me, "Well, here's the link right here." So I was like, "Oh, great!" And so I sat down to watch the whole thing, and I watched every single aspect of that thing closer than you can watch. I mean, I was glued to that thing.
Yeah.
I was kind of joking to myself. It was like watching an Andy Warhol film or something. But so what I saw absolutely blew my mind. I remember I watched it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a YouTube analysis of this, a response video. And I remember it took me about a week, and I was so excited. I remember I felt like it was just after I found out about 9/11 being an inside job. Well, I always kind of suspected it after not seeing that plane on NBC coverage.
Yeah.
But when I finally, came into that in 2003 or 4 or whatever it was, I was just so excited. I kind of felt like that when I was making this video.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the what you see in the video is, if you're not watching carefully, it looks like a ship lowers over the horizon, but you have to be watching every single point. You can't look away for a few minutes or something, because then you'll miss it. Because actually all that happens, and you can go to my zeteticism.com, or just go to www.flathead.science, and that'll get you to where the video is. Mm-hmm. You can just click on it and go right to YouTube there.
Yeah.
But what you actually see is the ship never lowers. I put it in fast motion 32 and 64 times, and you just see the boat just going really, really fast, and it never actually goes down. This mast always stays at the same height on the horizon. But what's absolutely spectacularly fascinating is apparently a lot of people knew this. I didn't know this until I saw this video. Some friends of mine in the conspiracy world said, "Oh yeah, I knew that." But what happens is the bottom smudges out, and the hull is white and the sails are white. And when it gets a certain distance away, the sails it becomes out of, I don't know if it's the camera's fault or the distance or whatever, but somehow or another, you really have to see this to know what I'm talking about. You have to see it to believe it. So, go to my website I just mentioned and check it out. It's called Amazing Flat Earth Info, Red's Rhetoric, Uncut Ship Over the Horizon Gives Huge Evidence for Flat Earth is the title. Mm-hmm. And it was on my Simulation Theory YouTube channel, but I just deleted it from there because for reasons I said earlier. Yeah. But what happens is you can see the white hull, and then the first sail, it just gradually over a number of minutes just becomes more and more fuzzy and blurry, and all of a sudden it just looks like one continuous solid of the front of the hull and the sail. Yeah. And then the same thing happens with the back sail, and so then it looks just like only sails, because it's just sort of smeared out and blurry, and you can't decipher the hull from the sails. Again, if you're just listening to this, you're going to have to see it to know what I'm talking about, because it's very hard to describe. And I'd never seen anything like this before. I could not believe it, because it just so much looks like only sails. But if you're not watching the video to see this happen, you wouldn't know that it isn't just the sails, and it's actually, you're still seeing the whole ship. It's just too far away to decipher what's going on. Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. It was the most exciting thing when I saw this. I guess it was sort of exciting because, well, not only because it was just sort of further info in this whole round philosophy versus flat philosophy debate that is going on, but this is the sort of video that can change history. Really, I mean, I don't want to be too grandiose, and I don't really think this is going to happen. I mean, I don't really think people are going to sit down and watch this en masse and say, okay, we want the truth. I'm going to put all my personal preferences. I'm not going to just invent reality as I want. I want to just see the truth. And yep, Columbus was wrong. Those guys on the beach in Spain, and if you believe that view of history, it happened really that way. They were looking through their telescopes and their eyes were squinting, so they didn't look at it continuously. They would just look at it in chunks, and they would see also this smearing happen, which it so much looks like a lowering going on if you're not looking at it continuously. In other words, if you're looking at the boat and then you put your telescope down or your camera down for a while or whatever for 10 minutes and then look back at it again, and you didn't see the sails smear into the hull because of blurriness, you would never have a clue. Yeah. And it would look so much like it lowered on the horizon. So the point is I mean, when I saw this video, I'm like, anybody who sees this and isn't, letting their personal biases dictate their philosophies of reality.
Yeah.
This video is a huge game changer. It can change the whole course of history, because if that's always the big thing of how we discovered the Earth was round. The sails on the mast show up first, on blah blah blah, all that stupid loose philosophy that everybody talks and shoves down kids' throats when they're 5 years old in school.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, this video so clearly, so concretely shows a different story. It's just clear as day. Yeah. Now, when I did this video, this fella Red's Rhetoric, he comes, oh, you're crazy, making up reality, and you're just a liar, and blah, blah. And I'm like, do a response. I want to hear what you have to say, because I did mine. Yeah. I mean, I broke this thing down, stills, comparing the size of mass, lines, and layers, the whole I mean, I dissected this thing in this response video I did to the maximum. Yeah. And I'm like, this dude's got no chance. There is no response coming. Yeah. I was thinking in my mind, the only way he's going to do a response is if he does a red herring, or a straw man. I used to teach critical thinking at U of Michigan, and red herring is when you purposely change the subject in order to try to make a person or an argument conclusion look different than what they are. Yeah. In order to fool someone. And a straw person, that is when you make up a fake version of a story or person or whatever to try to come up to a false conclusion to trick someone. I'm like, the only way he'll be able to really respond and keep his position is if he does one of those two. But I'm like, he probably won't do that. I mean, because this is just, how can you? It's just so incredibly clear. It's his video. Yeah. But nevertheless, he did come out with a video earlier this week. What he does is he's on a YouTube or a Google Hangout or whatever, talking to some people. And this is really not the response he did sort of speaks for himself. It's not a very good response. And what he's talking to these people on Google Hangout, and he just brings up, this guy made a response, and it's just so terrible. And everybody he's talking to immediately just believe him. They didn't go watch the video to make their assessment. They didn't even hardly hear it. They just immediately, he must be a wacko. And then somebody in the conversation said, is this one of the guys who doesn't believe went to the moon? That's a classic red herring. Let's let's take the attention to a different topic so we can try to downgrade the status of the arguer in question. So therefore that somehow has to do with the first position is downgraded also. And so it was not a very good response. But what he did is he took just one clip. He doesn't talk about the sails, doesn't merging into the hull. He doesn't talk about any of this stuff. Yeah. And then he just says, I was debunked. So I mean, I don't want to. I mean, that is, a good case of inventing reality. That's what I'm seeing. I don't want to talk a lot about the round earthers. I just want, my program is just keep plowing away at the evidence, whichever way it leads, and whatever direction it goes. And that's it. I'm just working in terms of evidence. But I mean, people are just kind of inventing. There's a lot of the case, where people just invent reality as they want. And I was just shocked, really, to be honest, that. I mean, he put it right on his channel, and I put the link. I said, people go watch this. And I watched my hit count on the video after I put it in his comments, and nobody went and watched it. And everybody just agreed with him.
And as a matter of fact, yes, he put up that video sort of to prove the round earth, but what he didn't realize what he had, and that was it was unedited. So
unbelievable footage.
Yeah, it was great footage, but I don't think even he watched it entirely. Not from beginning to end, just staring at it.
You watch the video right at the critical points. You can see these 3-minute periods where gradually the sails becoming more fuzzy with the hull, and then there's this period where it really starts to merge with the hull because it's too far away. Yeah. Right at those points, he's not looking at the camera. He's talking about the battery pack or doing his cell phone. I can't remember. But it's pretty evident he's not looking at the camera at those points. Yeah. So he doesn't. And then he comes back, and later on he's like, we just see the sail or whatever. And I'm like, come on, man, you're not even watching your own video. And this is like history-changing, world-changing footage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna go to break real quick, but when we come back, will Jeffrey Grupp's videos change the world? I think they've got a chance. And for those of you who haven't checked out
that's not my goal.
Well, no, but I think you got a great shot here because the curvature is one of those things that people are latching onto. It's the easiest thing to look at.
It's that guy's footage. I mean, he did a great job.
Yeah. All right. So we will we'll come right back with more Jeffrey and Jonathan and me, and we'll talk more Flat Earth. Right back.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. With us are Jonathan, of course, and special guest, Jeffrey Grupp. We're talking about flat Earth and some really, really neat optical tests that he's been doing. Man, so where we left off was the Red's Rhetoric thing, where for those people that aren't haven't just coming in on this. Basically, Red came out and tried to prove the globe by showing an unedited footage of a boat going across, what appeared to be going into the horizon, far away. But when Jeffrey broke it down and looked at it frame by frame, he realized that there was a blurring happening there, and how we seem to figure out how we perceive as a boat falling, going over the curvature of the Earth is actually more of a blur than anything else. That's an optical illusion that makes you think that it's going down that way, but it's actually not.
Yeah, it just blew my mind. I mean, I never in a million years would have guessed that that's what would happen. I mean, there was the part where Red was talking about in his response video.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of commentary going on about how the hull was lowering, but the mast was staying at the same height. And that's clearly because there was right at the horizon was some mirage activity. The window was all distorted on the boat and everything.
Yeah.
And then he didn't address any of those issues. He probably really does think that I'm wrong. I mean, it's probably too hard to believe that all his, geology professors and math professors and stuff are on the wrong track, and that just some nobody like me can analyze this video and show this mammoth outcome. Now, I just want to be clear. I'm not trying to, I like what you're saying about, the changing the world and stuff, but that's not I'm doing this for just,
I know.
Is just because I want to know. I'm a religious person, and I want to know what the story is behind everything. And this isn't for, anything but just, I don't know. Maybe I'm all wrong. Who knows?
I think you're onto something, man.
This video.
Because you're throwing a lot of math into it and a lot of great analysis, which most people haven't done. I mean, you're extremely thorough. And when I saw you doing the Red's Rhetoric video, I knew you were onto something. So what was the what did you look at after that? Do you want to mention?
Well, there's another one of the. Now, I always thought it was weird. There's just no footage of a boat on the horizon. I mean, I'm like, there must be some somewhere, but there really is so little. Now, there's another one. The Lori Frary, I think your name is.
Lori Frary.
Flat Earth Conspiracy YouTube channel.
Yes, I'm very fond of Lori, actually.
Yeah, I've been listening to some of her stuff too. Now, she has a spectacular video of a freighter ship, and I think it's also in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it looked like it was really in the same place, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this video is spectacular. It shows the exact. I think Red's video is more. It's because it's a sailboat and has to do with, it makes me think of Columbus, and it just so looks like the mast has gone down over the boom and the hull have gone down. Just illusorily gives that optical illusion.
Yeah.
But hers is different. The boat just completely smudges out.
Yeah, and it's a freighter on top of that. It's a big cargo ship.
Now you got a classic what's called an inferior mirage going on, where it's basically just to put it in really crude terms, right at the horizon, everything just becomes miraged in an inverted way. So the image gets turned around. So it looks like the hull gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But I did it in the Chicago skyline video I'm doing. I took some of Lori's footage and did fast motion. You see the freighter never lowers at all.
No.
And it just actually smudges out in the same exact way. It's just amazing footage again.
Yeah. I caught that where when you sped up her footage, in fact, I don't think she even knew what she had. But when you sped up her footage to, I don't know how fast you had that thing going.
30, I think it was 16 times.
Oh, that was perfect. Because when you're watching it go over in the distance, that's the problem with boats, is because they move so freaking slow, especially if they're in harbor. It's really, really tough to watch. But if you speed it up, you could see the whole kind of warping to the point, but the level stayed the same. You know, it was still a perspective issue, but it was getting just carved up by this mirage to the point where it almost looked like a freaking spaceship.
Well, she's got the zoom on that thing, so she's right on it. But if you back away from it, it'll look like, it's really a lot like a mirage on the street or something, which looks like water. Yeah. And the mirage creeps up on the hull of the boat, so it really kind of looks like the hull is lowering. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. I never knew this stuff existed. I remember when I put that Reds video up, a bunch of my old-time antimatter friends put in the comments like, "Oh yeah, I knew about this." I'm like, "Well, thanks for telling me."
Nice. Yeah. So Lori, if you're out there listening, thank you very much for
awesome work.
The content. She did a wonderful job. In fact, probably going to be, I think, a lot more useful than Reds in some cases, but we'll see.
They're both incredible.
They are both incredible. So after you kind of dug into Lori's, though, then you kind of turned a different direction.
Well, the Chicago skyline I've been working on really since almost the moment I was on the show the last time. Yeah. And it was actually a round earther. I kind of was, on the idea that, the Chicago skyline shouldn't be visible, so that periods might be evidence for flat Earth, because there should be curvature. Then a round earther, I was so new to all this, like everybody else, I didn't even notice that actually the Chicago skyline in that famous Grand Mirror Weatherman picture is lowered a bit. You see only the top halves or something of the buildings. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I started looking around, and all kinds of rounders out there were saying this is proof for, I think it's the Reds Rhetoric also, he made a video about that saying this is proof of round Earth, and he had a bunch of mathematics and so forth too. And I'm like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, was kicking myself. I'm like, why didn't I realize I knew that was light refraction, because when I studied astrophysics at Michigan State, we studied light refraction all the time, because we would do all the telescope work and so forth, and we knew that the objects weren't really, we'd have to look in a different spot in the sky than they really were, because the light was getting curved, not by the Earth's curvature or something, or gravity or something, no, by the atmosphere. Light slowed down in the Earth's atmosphere, especially near the horizon and so forth, and it bends the light. This is just a standard issue that's in radar studies and surveying technology and so forth. Anytime you're looking in long distances, you have to account for refraction. And I knew right when I saw it, I'm like, that's got to be what's going on here. It's taken me, I think, about a month or so since I was last on. I've been just combing through this, trying to figure this out. And if you basically, when you come down to it, there's a number of steps to this. Maybe let's try to just sum up this video, which is on YouTube now. I just put it up. Okay. And it's called, let me get the title for you here. Sorry. Well, I'll get it as it's called Zeticism Volume 1, Chicago Skyline, Illusion of Light Refraction and the Illusion of Curvature, and edition 1. Because, I'll probably have to come out with a second edition.
You might want to put Flat Earth in the title, by the way, at some point.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Just because everyone's been searching for it lately.
So. I like it. Yeah. But it's the first edition, because I'm sure there'll be mistakes and improvements or whatever that need to be hashed out and corrected or whatever. Yeah. But the basic idea is that light refraction is not something mysterious. A lot of people are doing curvature mathematics and this and that and so forth, but light refraction is not being discussed so much. I think I just saw Skiba talking about light refraction, so it's being discussed a bit, but this is really, I think, the primary issue. So long story short, how can I sum this up quickly?
No, you don't have to sum it quickly. We still got 2 segments. So
okay, yeah,
we got time.
If we sum it up properly, then.
I want to interrupt.
Okay, look at the Chicago sky. I first went from Portage, Indiana, and which is 30 miles away, and there's about 500 feet of lowering. You look at the Chicago skyline from Portage, Indiana.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Chicago skyline is lowered on the horizon by about 500 feet.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so, but if you go to radar studies and take their refraction mathematics, the radar industry, to my knowledge, doesn't really talk in terms of curvature and gravitation and so forth. They just talk in terms of atmosphere and standard refraction, subrefraction, super refraction, super refraction, and so forth.
Yeah.
Because they're very concerned with how light bends through the atmosphere. And, you know, you look all over the place and you can look in their manuals and they're all kind of like, curvature, just neglected. It doesn't really play. Even the surveying and leveling engineers, they kind of like, curvature doesn't matter. Hills and stuff are more of a problem than the silly, 0.57 inches per mile of curvature. Now, I know everybody has different curvature mathematics. I'm just going with in that comment I just made, just going with what the surveyors use. And 0.57 times the distance squared curvature, supposed curvature. So then what I did is I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the radar mathematics here and for just refraction. And sure enough, from 30 miles away, you get right at 500 feet. From looking at the beach of the Chicago skyline, you get 500 feet of refraction.
Okay.
If I did it all correct, the math and everything. I mean, I went over and over it. I think I'm on the right track here.
Yeah.
Somebody might want to... well, anyway, I mean, if I...
But it was coinciding with the radar charts you were looking at.
Yeah, but I also did the equations in there as well. I mean, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying not to be like the hero, like, I got it right, I know what I'm doing, I'm so smart, and everybody else worship me. That's the point. What I'm trying to do is trying to be humble and just say, this is my best attempt. If I... so other people maybe look at it and chime in and so forth. That's what I'm saying.
I gotcha. Jeffrey will be
the final word or something.
Yeah.
This is an investigation, an exploration, which we need to get to the truth on. So that's more important than my little video being 100% absolute fact or something. Anyways, so then you go over to the surveying group and leveling technique. Civil engineers, and they've got a set of mathematics which is different equations, but it leads to the exact same numbers. I mean, it's right in the same ballpark. I mean, I was working with some approximations with fuzzy pictures that people took from the beach and stuff on the internet. These aren't pictures I took. These are ones I pulled off the internet. I'm going to be going to Lake Michigan to do my own work here pretty quick. But
okay.
And then, so the surveyors, their mathematics leads to the same thing. Now, the difference is, though, is the radar people say it's just light refraction. That's what the curvature is that we're talking about. And then the surveying crowd, they say, oh, no, light refraction is just 14%. It's the Earth's curvature is the biggie.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, we got the same outcome coming from two different sets of mathematics, but there's different philosophical claims being made on what's doing the curving.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, we need to find out who's right here. And I'm like, man, how do I find out? And I don't want to get all too Christian on you guys here, but I mean,
go ahead. Sure.
I've been given gifts by the Creator, and if I did the video right, it's not me. It was just the gifts I've been given. So anyway, just wanted to mention that so I can remain humble and take the credit off me.
All right.
Anyway, so what I did is I'm like, okay, we need to find a place on Earth where we know there's no curvature going on and see how much light refraction we have going on there. And if it's similar to the Sears Tower, then if we get for the same kind of distance, we get these huge amounts of refraction. And we know that the surveying philosophy is wrong. It's not curvature that's making the Sears Tower from 30 miles away go down 500 or look like it's 500 feet lowered.
Yeah.
It's just light refraction. There's no curvature or anything.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, where in the world how do we find is there such a thing that's a straight edge? Even in the flat Earth philosophy, it's hard to find other than a surface of water.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about the Salar de Uyuni in Chile. I think it's 500 meters up or something. I can't remember. It's
the biggest salt flats in the world.
Yeah, and here's the thing about this place. Okay, it varies by only 80 centimeters, which is think about 0.8 meters, and it's twice the size of Delaware. So it's bigger than a lot of countries. Absolutely massive, spectacular place, and it only varies in elevation by 80 centimeters. So if you're a rounder, in that philosophy, you're going to hold that it's actually curved, but what we mean by flat is it doesn't have many elevation variations. And if you're a flat earther, you're going to say, no, it's actually flat, roughly like a geometrical plane.
Yeah.
In our, high school, sophomore year geometry classes. Now I'm like, okay, how can we if we can find out who's right in a real simple way? We don't want a bunch of murky evidence. We don't want obscure mathematics that are hard to verify. We want something as simple as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, guess what? The Salar de Uyuni gets covered with water often for many, many months at a time. And I'm like, boom, that's it. It cannot, if it gets covered by water and the water doesn't flow around and stuff, that's going to tell us a lot here. Yeah. Because to make a long story short, or to make a long story as clear as possible, if you have a curved surface, it's actually what we were just talking about a little while ago. You've got the water bending problem. If you look at the Salar in your mind's eye and you imagine this nice smooth curve, okay, and you've got water, let's say there's 3 inches of water, which is commonplace for there to be 3 inches of water covering it for many months at a time. If there's 3 inches of water covering it, then that means, and it doesn't flow around, then that's interesting, because why wouldn't it flow to the sides? Like, it's hard to do it without diagrams like I have in my video. Yeah. But if you imagine a curve, let's just take a flat plane, like a piece of metal. Yeah. Try to stack up water on it. You can't do it because you stack up water. Water flows. It flows off the edges and so forth. I'm like, well, okay, if I got a metal plate that's a foot long that I'm holding in my hand, and I level it perfectly and try to stack up water and it flows, well, the same thing's going to happen in the Salar. Happens to be twice the width of Delaware. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. That's bigger. The same thing's going to happen. You're not going to have water bunching up. It's going to flow, because that's what liquids do. They flow. That's the definition of a liquid. Flow. Conforms to its container by flow qualities. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this is now that what's going to happen then. Just like if I try to stack up water on the flat metal plate in my backyard, it's going to flow and fall off the edges and so forth, because it's not going to bunch up. I mean, you can have one water drop that does because of surface tension. Sure. But we're talking about, like an inch or something. Okay. Now, the Salar doesn't do that either. I mean, the Salar doesn't do that. So basically, my thesis here is that if you assert that the Salar de Uyuni can have 1 or 3 or 6 inches of water or whatever. I saw one news story of a foot of water. There was like emergency news broadcasts and so forth of all this. People were ordered to stay out and so forth because there's so much.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. I love you. Now back to our show.
Sorry about that.
Good. It lets me gather my thoughts. I'm going to start over talking about that water in the Salar thing.
Yeah. That's where I left. We were talking about the Salar, and then it just frickin' died on me. So, and I was hoping that you guys would catch it, but no big deal if you didn't. Okay, so this thing is launched. This thing is running. Okay, we will just go. Jonathan, you'll have to just cut and splice this sucker in there. Mm-hmm. So, or if yours is still running, then you won't. But I'm going to give you my audio as well, just in case you need it.
Yeah, I'll clean it up.
Okay, so Jeffrey, we were talking about the Salar, and basically where I left off with you was that it's the flattest place on Earth. It's also the biggest flat place on Earth, down in Chile. And what proves that it's flat, flatter than any airport runway ever built, is that for months out of the year, there's rain that falls on it.
No. It's a drainage basin from the mountains.
Oh, okay. Even better, to where the whole thing kind of fills up uniformly with water up to like 3 inches or something like that.
Well, it can usually it's centimeters, but it can get into the inches, or I read 1 to 2 feet. And there was some kind of situation in 2012 where people weren't allowed in parts of the Salar or in it at all because there was so much water and it was dangerous.
Wow.
But yeah, the basic idea, having that inadvertent break there, let me gather my thoughts a little bit. Yeah. The point here is that if you have a surface like that, mm-hmm. which has a curve on it, you have to have water that will stay along the curve if the Salar is curved according to the round Earth philosophy. Mm-hmm. But it would appear that it would flow to the sides because the middle of the Salar is higher than according to the curvature is higher than the edges. So you would think that water would flow to the sides. Now, of course, the round Earth philosophy camp has to come up with some theoretical description of how water will stay in place. It's the same situation of how you come up with the idea that from Portage, Indiana to the Sears Tower, there's a 500-foot hump of water between the two. You have to somehow come up. Gravitation is the only way I know to describe that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter because, like we were saying earlier, if you've got a metal plate in your yard or a salar twice the size of Delaware, or you can have a smaller salt flat that if it gets covered with water somewhere in the world, the water, it's going to flow. Okay. And if you assert that water bunches up and is continuous all across the salar, and the salar is a curved surface along the curvature of the earth, then you're violating the flow characteristics of water. You're saying water won't flow, it will act like a solid, but that is the purest form of logical contradiction. It's like saying I am and I am not Jeff. You're saying water is not water. Because you're saying the flow characteristics of a liquid are not what a liquid is.
Okay.
There's a contradiction. So we have to assert, if there's standing water for months at a time, we have to assert in this localized place on the earth, because it's really not that big. I mean, it's bigger than some countries, but from the scope of the sphere Earth, according to the sphere Earth philosophy, it's actually small. Yeah. Okay, so it's not like the Pacific Ocean or Lake Michigan or something like that. Well, maybe it is similar to the size of Lake Michigan, not half as big or something. I don't know, but anyways, so I have no choice. I have to assert this thing is perfectly flat. I mean, perfectly, and meaning that it's like a geometrical plane. It's not a curved thing like on the longer with elevation differences that are minor on a curved sphere. Yeah. I have to assert no, it's actually like a geometrical plane. That's what I mean by when I say perfectly flat. It actually has, some centimeters of variation. That's why there can be standing water. Now, this is a huge problem. Now, what I emphasize in the video that I just put up is that, we're getting this evidence about the salar being geometrically flat, not from something murky or weird, but from the simplest evidence of all, the definition of a liquid. Okay, so it's not like we're going off in some wild thing here, to come to this conclusion. You might have to sit and think about it for a second and look at the diagrams. It's about a half hour in, I think, to this video I made. Look at the diagrams I made, and you'll see. Yeah. It's the same situation as trying to make water stand up in the metal plate in your workshop. But if it is geometrically flat, there's just serious problems for the round Earth flat. How did it form? Gravitation is stronger in the center as compared to the edges. Now, what force in nature kept the edges from, curving down on the round Earth philosophy? Does nature create straight edges like this, especially that's twice the size of Delaware, or almost twice the size of Delaware? Yeah. There's just all kinds of oddities about this. It's supposed to be, scientists out there are saying, well, it's formed by the salt ocean underneath it. They call it a geoid. Yeah. And that's how it gets its surface. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a problem, because if it's geometrically flat, then why isn't Lake Michigan geometrically flat also? Or because if it's, there's all kinds of problems that come out of this. Yeah. But here's the biggie. Okay. There's a mountain. We'll try to put this all together here. There's mountains all around it. It's surrounded by mountains. And there's one particular mountain, Mount Tupa, which is 93% of a mile over the surface of the salar. So the salar is way up, but this mountain goes almost a mile further up. Okay. Now, if we see some significant lowering on the horizon of that mountain, we know it's not coming from curvature. Okay, now curvature is remember we were talking about radar mathematics versus surveying engineering mathematics. One says it's just light responsible for lowering the Sears Tower or objects on the horizon. The other says, no, it's curvature and light refraction. Yeah. But the light refraction is only supposed to be 1/7, 14%. And so if we see significant light refraction on the salar, then, which is a geometrically flat surface, we know that what's going on in these lowerings of the horizons is not curvature, it's light refraction. And light refraction can provide a huge amount of the illusion of lowering on the horizon of objects in the distance. And what we're seeing with the Sears Tower, all that was really going on with that is light refraction. And the surveying philosophy of saying there's curvature involved in that is an incorrect, unverified philosophy. Yeah. Now, so what do you know? Mount Tupa, man, I found a bunch of pictures. I mean, we're not even that far away from it. I mean, you can still decipher pieces of the mountain and so forth, and it's not even, how when you in the distance, mountains just turn kind of grayish, that that grayish color because they're just so far away and just in the distance through the air, you can't decipher any of the grooves and so forth in a mountain.
Yeah,
you can still make out tons of it. And I show in the video about at least 25% of the mountain is lowered on the horizon. Okay, and we don't even. That's as far as I could get from the limited pictures I had. We didn't even get. It could be even more. It could be even 30 or 35 because the pictures I had didn't even get me. I couldn't even find a picture right at the base to compare two pictures. I only could find ones that didn't even show me right at the base. But the ones I had 25. Okay, 25% is 1,000 feet. Okay, so we're talking. Okay, but you remember the Sears Tower from 30 miles was 500. We're talking about mega. I couldn't believe it because we're way up there and the mountains are supposed to be less dense air, and so the refraction. I was like, man, it's going to be tough to figure this out. There's not going to be as much refraction and so forth, which is just because the air density is less. Because the more dense, the more curving down of the light beams. So we're not talking about mirage and stuff. We're just talking about objects from the distance. The light reflected off those coming to your eyes is bent downward. So like when you see a sunset, the sun actually is already set by the time you see it hitting the water. Because,
if you believe that.
So anyway, so the point is it was very easy to verify. There's just tremendous refraction going on.
Yeah. Hey, let's do this because I got to keep the people in suspense. Let's go to break real quick.
Sure.
And then I will come right back and do the conclusion of, is it globe? Is it flat? Well, it's leaning even more and more flat. So we'll be right back with more Jeffrey Grupp. Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark, with Jonathan, Jeffrey Grupp. We're talking about all things flat, more specifically, some really, really interesting flat Earth tests down in Chile at the Salar Salt Flats. So that's where we left you, Jeffrey. So you were talking about Mount, what was it called?
Tupa. I think that's how you should pronounce it.
Tupa?
Yeah.
Which stands about a mile above the Salt Flats. And
just under.
Yeah, and you were noticing from a distance, about 25% of this thing was already was being chopped.
But it's definitely more because I was limited to what pictures I had. If you watch the video, you'll see how I was limited. I couldn't get right to the base. I mean, so it almost surprised me how much refraction there was.
Yeah.
So the point is that if all this, I mean, I've sat and thought about all this analysis, and it's all. When I was publishing in academia back in the day, I always wanted to make sure my evidence was the simplest possible evidence because then nobody could, because if I'm making huge conclusions on them, then nobody can pick apart and say, oh, you're using this thing that nobody can, like a NASA thing, like nobody can observe it and you just have to go on your word and so forth. I didn't want anything like that. I just wanted the simplest stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where this salt flat conclusion comes from. But if it's correct, I mean, it really has staggering
implications. So just so the people know, because the simplest. So basically, what you're saying is the mountain was being chopped, but you're basically saying it's all refraction, because
it has to be.
It has to be.
So let's just review it. I mean, like I say in the video, you might have to rewind this last 2 minutes here because you have to get your head around all this new thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Salar is geometrically flat and does not have a curve. Okay, because it can't because of the standing water.
Yeah.
If we see significant lowering, like 1,000 feet of a mountain that doesn't even look that far away. I mean, I don't know how far away the mountain is, but the point is is we know we're not terribly far because it's so clear in the picture. The one specific, well, there's a whole bunch of them you can find, but the one specific one I happen to use in the video, and there's so much, 1,000 feet at least. I mean, that's twice what the Sears Tower exhibited from 30 miles. And the whole Salar isn't that much bigger than 30. I can't remember. I can't actually remember how far it is across.
Sure.
But I mean, you were talking about. So the point is, we have the two camps, radar and surveying engineers. The surveying engineer said, no, the curvature is most of what we see in all this lowering that we see all over the place in the horizon. And the refraction is just a little amount. And I'm saying, okay, prove it, because that's just a philosophical claim that you're putting on your mathematics. You have these mathematics. You see this lowering going on, so you invent some mathematics, which maps out what happens when you're at certain distances and how things lower and rise up on the horizon as you approach or go away from them. So that's fine. The mathematics are great. But then if you start to say, oh, the reason that the lowering is happening and the mathematics does what it does is because of X, Y, and Z, that's a philosophical claim. And the surveying group says, oh, it's curvature, which is doing all but 86% of it. And I'm saying, okay, if we find a flat surface on the Earth and we see massive refraction, then that philosophical position is wrong. And the radar folks, which to my knowledge just seem to talk in terms of refraction, they're the ones who probably inadvertently have the correct philosophy attached onto their mathematics. And there's only refraction accounting for this huge lowering of Mount Tupa in the Salar de Uyuni. So that means that, okay, if that's going on in the Salar de Uyuni, that high up in the atmosphere and so forth, if there's that much refraction, then why, when I go look at the Sears Tower from 30 miles away in Puerto Genina, why am I going to think anything but what I see at the Salar makes me realize that the lowering of the horizon of the Sears Tower in Chicago from 30 miles away also is just nothing but light refraction. I have to go with that conclusion. All the logical steps lead right to it. And this assumption, this unverified theoretical and non-observable assumption of the curvature has to be thrown out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking monstrous.
I mean, I'm going to be thinking about this. I'm not saying, okay, proven, done. What I'm saying is I've been thinking about this and I've been blown away by this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be thinking about this and go sit in a dark closet tonight and think about this for the next year or so. But I mean, it seems awfully simple.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and for people that still aren't fully understanding what Jeffrey's saying here, he's saying that if refraction can be proven on this giant salt flat up in Chile, then it should literally be no different than what's going on out on a Lake Michigan or any body of water, anything that you can see across. So it kind of kills the argument of the sailboats going down over the horizon versus, at first we were kind of arguing, it's like, okay, you can't have the sailboat and the Sears Tower, the Sears Tower at the same time because they can't both be mirages. But if they were both refractions, then yes, you could have them both that way. But what most people aren't getting yet maybe is refraction isn't curvature. Refraction is refraction. That's all it is.
Yeah, the refraction doesn't kick in. This is something I discuss in detail at the end of the video. It's a very important point. The refraction doesn't kick in till about 20 or 25 miles. That's why that Strait of Dover video I took down, because I was thinking, man, why don't we have any refraction going on? We should see some lowering, just not the amount. I was kind of thinking along the same lines when I made that video. We just shouldn't see as much as, as the curvature, but we should see some because of refraction. And this is what got me really thinking something doesn't make sense. That's why I took that video down. But the point, I forgot what I was going to say, but the point is that I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, that's all right. But the
I did that last time I was on too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. The curvature, and again, what the earlier point, which again I'd like to address, which is the Salar has to be perfectly flat, because if it wasn't, the waters would pool up. Like in a basement. A basement floor looks perfectly flat, but you pour about 20 gallons of water on it, it's gonna slope one way or the other because it's angling down. On the Salar, it doesn't slope anywhere. I mean, you can see
it's unbelievable.
You can see the most beautiful pictures of this place where the water just is completely even. And again, 8 centimeters difference or something like that?
No, 80 centimeters.
Oh, 80 centimeters.
70. It kind of varies from what
I mean, still
scientists you're reading.
We don't have airport runways that are that good.
Oh, there's in my video I got a guy riding his motorcycle at like 160 or 80 kilometers across this thing.
Yeah.
It's that smooth.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, again, which is why up in the Bonneville Salt Flats, the American version of this, which eventually, we're going to have to do some testing there. That's why you do the world record speed, the cars, because you are never worried about any bumps whatsoever. It's that flat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
flat, not just in that there's no bumpiness, flat in the sense of there's no curvature. But I remember what I was going to say a second ago. The point now we're talking about boats on the horizon. Some people out there might say, well, why isn't there, there's curvature on, there's the illusion of curvature by way of refraction for, the Sears Tower 30 miles away. Why isn't there for the boat that's 7 miles out that we were just talking about? And the answer to that, I talk about that in the end of the video, is because this refraction doesn't really kick in until you get up over 15 to 25 miles.
Oh,
so that's why the boat videos work. And then when you look, I mean, I've got a picture I've got a part in the video. I don't think you guys saw this. I added this in. You guys got the sneak peek, but I added in before I put the final version up.
Yeah.
And I show like from Whiting, Illinois at 15 miles away.
Yeah.
You've got maybe only a few feet of lowering the illusion of lowering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go just another 10 miles and all of a sudden you've got 260 in Gary, Indiana. And then you go another 10 miles after that over in Portage, Indiana, and then you've got I can't remember what the
name of the town is.
Sorry, hang on. Whiting is 15, Gary's another 5 miles. Sorry, you go from Whiting to Gary 5 to 6 miles, you've got 260 feet of refraction all of a sudden. Yeah. Then you go another number of miles to Portage, and then you've got another 250 feet. Then you go over to New Buffalo, and you've got 700 or so more feet, and that's only 18 miles away. So it gets greater and greater and greater as you go. So it's the slope of refraction increases as you go away from it. It's very little at the beginning. That's why the boats on the horizon work.
And the refraction rate seems fairly consistent. From the.
Well, I'm using I check it in the video. I think some of the final version that you didn't see, I checked some of this with math, like the New Buffalo calculation. I got to 1,000 feet, or maybe it was 900. I forgot 960 or something.
Yeah.
But the math shows it to be really 1,300. But if you look at the pictures I put in the final version of the Sears Tower on the horizon from New Buffalo, it varies tremendously. I mean, some parts you can just see a little bit of the top, and then some you can almost see some of the tops of the buildings next to it. So the radar folks talk about this. They say when you get further and further out, they always use the word unwieldy because things get real tough. And you can see that. I put up 6 pictures. I think it's 6 pictures of the Chicago skyline from New Buffalo, and all of them show very different things. But you can basically get a range of where the cutoff happens. I calculate it from optical inspection at about 960 feet, but the mathematics shows it to be at about 1,300. So I'm 400 feet off. But the point isn't from using fuzzy pictures and all these comparisons on trying to compare things on pictures on my computer. The point is we didn't get 7 times refraction. We got something right in the ballpark of what only the refraction is, and we're not detecting the curvature because it's far greater if we detect curvature, which we don't.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow. That's
hard story.
That's amazing. And again, it's if it is one step closer to helping prove this thing out. But at this point, from the test you're showing, it doesn't. We're not looking at any curve at all. I mean, you're not even seeing a slight curve anywhere. It's all,
you've got everything is perfectly accounted for with refraction, as the radar studies and our analysis of the SLAR show. Now the video I'm doing, I call it Zeticism Volume 1, Edition 1.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I'm doing is this just started off as a little project I was actually talking back and forth via YouTube videos with a rounder, and he was saying that his mathematics, it was Reds again. He said that his mathematics showed that, from Grandmere, Michigan, the Sears Tower cutoff is right where it should be, so his mathematics is perfect. And so we were talking back and forth, and then I'm like, well, you didn't account for refraction. So I put out a little video just suggesting, well, I think Reds might be wrong because he's not accounting for refraction, which is going to be significant.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, let me make a video on this. And then I'm like, I want to make this thing so it's rock solid because I want to prove this to myself. Not really. Well, I mean, other people that feel that it's valuable information for them, that's great, but I mean, this is really just trying because I want to know with. I mean, I want to understand this whole game here.
Sure.
And so this thing went deeper and deeper and deeper. Radar studies and surveying technology and the Salar de Uyuni and ISIS space station. It was. So this is the first. What I'm going to do is any of these objections like moon parallax and the crater, even that crater in Arizona, which I've been to. Yeah. There's a lot of different objections people can throw, which some of them are pretty good objections to flat Earth, like the Chicago skyline. Wasn't the greatest objection because the lowering didn't seem to match to what it should be. It just kind of seemed like a light, a play on light or something. But a lot of people were saying this proves the Earth is round. And I'm like, well, it's not the best objection, but let's tackle it. See, what I'm trying to do, just for my own sake, we'll see. Maybe I'll just make this one video and that's it. But my guess is I'm going to make a whole series of these and just try to tackle all these. Next one I'm doing is moon parallax, and that I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on that one. That one will be the big one.
Really? Do you think the moon parallax is going to be one of the big?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you might be right, Mark, with the holographic cinematic scene up there.
No, I may be wrong though. Why? What are you hoping to see with the moon?
It's too early. I've got a whole bunch of really spectacular points that I'm trying to see how they all connect. And a lot of it relates back to antimatter radio days when I was studying things about how these amazing. I've got a video up on an old YouTube channel of mine called Zen Flower Radio, which I had back in 2011.
Yeah.
Because before I became a Christian, I was still basically a Buddhist then.
Yeah.
And not saying anything against Buddhism. Buddhism is
all
great.
God's children.
Yeah. I mean, Buddhism doesn't really conflict with Christianity. But anyways, so I've got it. It's called "You Are a Simulation," and in that, it's a whole like hour-long documentary, and where I go in that, there's all these amazing properties of the solar system. Now, this is not the solar system of the flat Earth. This is sort of either the geocentric or heliocentric, the stuff spinning around other stuff model.
Sure.
But there's all these unbelievable, I don't want to say coincidences, patterns.
Yeah.
That you can just observe right from Earth, like things moving along the same paths and different, different astronomical bodies, really mainly the Earth, Sun, and Moon operating in sync with the mathematical factorials.
Mm-hmm.
Which you come up with enough coincidences here, you're like, no more coincidence anymore. Something really funny going on here. This is designed by an intelligence or something. And so I put that video up, "You Are a Simulation," and it really covers a lot of that heavily. And there's a lot of that. And anyway, I got to kind of get into it before I talk about it too much more. And maybe, hopefully, maybe in another month I'll have that done and we can do a show on it.
Right on. Wow, it sounds extremely exciting.
Yeah, but I'm going to cover a bunch of these. I've got a whole list, even like air currents and stuff. I just want to, because what I'm finding, there's really a lot. Just speaking not as a flathead, but just as someone who's trying to be a logical person, an empirical person.
Yeah.
There really is a lot of evidence stacking up for the flat position. I mean, even just take the NASA stuff. Like I heard you saying that you're going to take on NASA.
I'm going to try. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even that is just, just that alone is a huge dent in the round philosophy. It doesn't prove the flat. It's just there's all kinds of stuff like that just piles up and up and up. Like the air currents work better on the flat map and the Antarctica stuff and flights. I mean, on and on and on and on and on. And then you go and find out what the round stuff is. And you got you got a couple things. Sears Tower lowering, which didn't really work in the first place.
Yeah.
Then the moon parallax is questionable, but that one seems like a pretty interesting one. I had somebody say to me, can you see the Mars ice caps from, this is actually my friend Luke. Mm-hmm. My buddy Luke said, he's actually a rounder. He said, can you see the ice caps from Mars through a telescope to verify they're real? And I thought I remember seeing those when I was an astrophysics student at Michigan State. And so he's like, well, you see both the caps there in the sphere, and it kind of is just like how our Earth appears to be. So it's kind of hard to all of a sudden start saying our Earth looks just like that ball with those caps. So isn't it simpler just to theorize that we're both spheres?
Yeah.
And I'm like, even objections like that, I just want to tackle, and just because it seems that if you tackle these objections, just more discovery happens and you unearth more stuff. Like I never would have been thinking about the Salar so much if I didn't go to this Sears Tower thing. And man, this existence of a geometrically flat, it's just, we can kind of just chalk it up as a done deal that Salar is flat because the evidence is so simple with the flow, being based on the flow characteristics of water.
Yeah.
That is just really a stunning thing. I mean, whether you're round or flat or head or whatever you are, academic or conspiracy theorist, that is a shocker that thing exists like that.
Yeah.
It says some weird things about this Earth on both camps.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. And while we got you, we got a little time left, but I was hoping now both of you, I've got to mention this because it came out this week, while we were getting ready for this, which was NASA released that photo, and I think I attached it in the chat thing. I was hoping you guys had both gotten a chance to take a look at it. Mm-hmm. That photo, which was, and there's a couple things really, really interesting, about this NASA photo, which, the flat Earth people have been clamoring for this the entire time. It's like, why have there been no photos of the Earth taken from space?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Full blown. It's in your chat window, by the way, if you got it up. Why have there been no photos taken of the Earth since 1972? And, people will come back saying, no, there's photos of the Earth, And then all of a sudden this week, I think it was Monday or something like that, NASA comes out, releases, full blown media coverage, the whole 9 yards. The White House tweeted this thing and said, oh yeah, by the way, we have a picture of the Earth from space at about 1 million miles out. And here it is. And
stars.
Yeah. No stars. It looks worse.
I just won.
You just won? Oh, because
I think maybe it's dust on my screen. Hang on. Oh, there is one. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's a dead pixel.
Is
it? Yeah, I think you're right.
That's a hot pixel or a dead pixel, yeah.
But it's really, really interesting because, there's so many things wrong with this picture. One, NASA comes out and says in their headline, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the first picture we've taken in 43 years, right? Of the Earth from space, which again is, that's like, oh, why now? Why now? And should the movement take credit for it? Absolutely, they should. Two, it's tons of cloud cover.
Yeah, right.
Tons of cloud cover on it. You can't see crap. It's actually less stuff on it, that you can see visibly than the one in 1972.
Why is it in North America again?
Well, it's on North America this time. The original 1972 photo, though, was of Africa and Antarctica.
Oh, right, okay.
In fact, the only continent that was shown in its entirety, if you believe it, was Antarctica. And again, don't believe in coincidences. You believe in, the ulterior motives. But the other thing, people have been, staring at this photo and just dissecting it. People have been immediately opening it up in Photoshop. What's interesting, though, is if you take that image and spin it upside down, somebody caught, and it looks pretty blatant, somebody, when I call it a whistleblower, call it whoever it is, but somebody spelled sex in clouds. And on this,
I see it.
You see it if you turn it upside down?
Over there to the left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's on the left, but if you spin it, it's up in the northeast part. If it's inverted, and I was going, holy smokes, are you kidding me? You're going to throw that Disney subliminal crap in there? But people spotted that right away, and I was
about that movie Rapunzel.
Yeah,
or spells out the word sex subliminally.
Yeah, or just about every cover of every Disney DVD that's ever been made.
That's pretty funny.
That people snuck it in there. So
coincidence, Mark. That's how it works.
Yeah, but it's like, why? It's again, it's like they're begging to get caught. In this case, or you've got
it's an announcement. This is a picture of mass absurdity with clouds, and there's over like by Puerto Rico, it's turquoise blue or something. Is that my screen doing that again?
Well, yeah, and
no stars. I mean, they're just announcing. It's kind of reminds me of like a hospital or like the medical profession. They'll tell you on TV, the side effects of this drug are death and grow 3 heads and can't talk anymore and all this kind of stuff. But go ahead and take it, and then you fall into the black magic ritual. The ones who agree with it and fall into it and go along with it, those are the ones who get attacked. That's my theory and why conspiracy theorists, after all these years, I mean, we don't really, I don't know. I mean, there's some little attacks in the mass media on us, but we're really kind of just left alone because you have to go along with the system to be attacked by it. If you don't go along with it, the more you resist it, the more it leaves you alone.
Yeah, agreed.
Because you have to play along with the ritual.
Yeah. And one more thing before we get off this.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. Before we get off this picture, and I'll put it in the description when I get a chance. Is if for those of you who haven't seen it, but the original NASA link, not all the major news networks of the White House. The original NASA link again was they were throwing it in your face. They were saying, "Look, it's a composite image of 3 different things that we did," and they call it photorealistic. very specific in the description. And like the first,
what is that?
I know. I'm going, okay, so it's not a real photo. So, but the media didn't want to talk about that. They were saying, oh no, well, it's 1 million miles away and it's our probe, and they're going to keep taking shots, supposedly every so often and release them. But supposedly the probe had been up there for a couple weeks, and it took months for it to get there or something like that. And it was ridiculous. But again, it was so blatant. It was bordering on silly, because
don't you guys think that they're just whoever the Illuminati is, or back in my antimatter radio days, we really broke it down to try to figure out where, who, and what they are and so forth. But can't you just see them in their sadomas S&M dungeons or wherever they live, just sitting there cracking up, saying, let's throw this stupid picture at them with no stars and green Puerto Rico, and don't let them see anything and say, this is fact, and watch all the fools follow along.
Yeah, but I gotta say that, and then we'll get to our closing stuff, is that the arguments, it's bad enough that even the debunkers were picking up on it, going, ugh. This is, basically, they're not even taking it and throwing it back at the flat earthers. They're holding it in their hands. They're going, yikes, this is not pretty. And it isn't. It's really bad.
It's not really a secret, you know.
No, it's not. So, what are you going to be working on next? We got 2 minutes and change until we get out of here. What's your next thing going to be? The moon?
Yeah, probably moon parallax. I want to get, the sky is a mystery. Like, what's going on with exactly what we're seeing there. Like I said earlier, I really hold that Platonistic view. I just want to I want to know. I want to get to the bottom of it, and or as best I can, just to figure out, because that's really important to see what we're looking up there. I mean, I sort of view it as if I look into the sky, I'm just one step away from looking straight into the heavenly realms where the Creator is. That's just my personal philosophy. Now, I want to know, is that philosophy just a nice little philosophy, or am I really onto something there that can really stand up to hardcore empirical investigation? That I just kind of want to investigate some stuff like that. I mean, this philosophy is so important. Yeah, this flat Earth stuff. I mean, it's just. You do wonder. It's just so such a rage right now in the conspiracy world, and I'm seeing good old conspiracy friends of mine, sort of acting like people I would go and battle with on 9/11 back in the day. Trying to tell people my 9/11. They're saying, you're crazy. I'm just showing them the most clear evidence, and they don't believe it. Oh no, and they're just like saying the sky is green or something. Yeah, I'm seeing conspiracy theorists act this way with flat Earth. Yeah. It's just amazing. I mean, what is it about the flat Earth philosophy that's so taboo?
Well, it's again, you're messing with people's worlds. Literally, you're messing with their reality. Again, it's the not to use the cliche, but it is the Neo argument, and that is, you don't tell people after a certain age. You want to tell kids, they'll get it. They'll totally get it. But if you tell Keanu Reeves, when he was in his early 30s, he's going to freaking flip out. Because you're by that point, you're so indoctrinated, you're going to brace against it. Anyway, we got like 45 seconds till we get the heck out of here. Jeffrey, plug your sites.
Already? We're done?
I'm sorry, man. We'll have you back again, I swear.
All right, so Zeteticism.com is the new site. And if you can't spell that, just go to www.flathead.science. My new YouTube channel, which is going to be just for this, is called, the channel name is Zeteticism.com, but just go to that site I just mentioned. That's right where to get you to it all. And that's about it. I hope to put out more good stuff. I hope it's helpful to people. And, I'm just a humble servant, man. It has nothing to do with me. It's just trying to be a good person. That's all.
Right on, man. Keep the faith and stay flat. And with that, thank you to our guests.
Thank you, guys.
Jeffrey Grupp, and thank you, Jonathan. And we are out of here until next time.
Live chop 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 chop. Science based with slap chop. You're gonna be in a great mood all day. You're gonna slapping your troubles away with a slap. Slapping your troubles away with a slap chop. Science based with slap chop. You're gonna be in a great mood all day. You're gonna slapping your troubles away with a slap. Slapping your troubles this away with a slap chop. Look, here's a potato. One slap, you get big chunks for the stew. Two slaps, don't rise in a second. And look at this. With your hand mushroom, the more you do it, why don't get to its rich and great. Now, you love salad. You hate making it. You know you hate making salad. You hate making it. So we don't have any salad in your diet. Just one slap. Salad. A soup, coleslaw, stuff in what? 5 seconds? 4 or 5 seconds, it's done. This thing, this tuna looks boring. Stop having a boring tuna. Stop having a boring life. Add this tuna, bring it like this. Now you're gonna have a nice, exciting life. Now here's a hard-boiled egg. One chunk, you add pickle, you add the green. And what you can do, you can mix things together. You add ham, and you're gonna love this. Don't have time to make breakfast. Breakfast to go. Watch this, you're gonna love my nuts. Watch this, you're gonna love my nuts. Watch this, you're gonna watch this. You're gonna watch this. Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. Put my fruit, put mango. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Look at this, is not beautiful ice cream. The reason you're gonna slap away every day is because it's so easy to clean. 1, 2, and pops open like that. Now these other ones you've seen in the stores, bacteria gets in the food. All the stores have this. You can't clean it. You can't open this up. It's worthless. Forget about it. Now take the slab chop, put it back together. Put the slab chop right there. Let's put the slab chop right there. Let's put the slab chop right there. Let's put the slab chop right there. The skin's at the bottom. 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 The skin comes right off. 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 Now put a tomato in there. Add your cilantro, your hot peppers right there. You can hit it like this. Hit it like this. Hit it like this. Hit it like this. Guys, we're gonna make America ski again. One slap at a time. It's guys, we're gonna make America ski again. One slap at a time. It's guys, we're one ski again. One slap at a one slap at a time. We're one ski again. One slap at a one slap at a time. We're one ski again. One slap at a one slap at a time. We're guys, we're one slap at a tap at a clap 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 clap. Lions bitch with slap chop. You're gonna be the great.